this point, I'm going to ask you to please stand for the pledge. Gentlemen, if you are wearing a hat and you are not military, you are not first responder, please remove headgear during the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Before the chair turns the podium over briefly to the town administrator, and I say briefly only because we discussed that when we met the other day. On behalf of town meeting, let me take this opportunity to officially and formally welcome back our town administrator, Ryan McLean, after 14 months of service. Thank you. At this point, the chair will yield the podium briefly to a now thoroughly embarrassed town administrator. Mr. McLean.
All right, thank you and good evening. I certainly appreciate that. The town was incredibly supportive during my tour of duty. It wasn't my first one, but it certainly was my first with this job and my current family setup. So I appreciate all the messages, the welcoming back. Memorial Day was excellent here, and Hubbardston should certainly be proud of the way it takes care of its veterans and honors its service members. So thank you very much. I very, very much appreciate it. Just real quickly now to nerd out municipally, the document you have in front of you, you have a printed version of the warrant, and then the vibrant green paper is budget document, so it has budget highlights, it has a budget overview, and then a line item budget for you to reference and discuss or see. We try to make things as transparent as possible, and we'll discuss the budget later on. Before we start, and I promised the moderator I would be brief, I'd like to recognize a couple folks. So to start off the meeting, I would like to recognize someone who stood in for me while I was gone for 14 months and served as the acting town administrator here. So most town administrators, when they retire, are a little sick of municipal service, town meeting, and they don't work in the summers, right? They have like these nice hours, do a couple months. David Nixon signed on to be the acting town administrator here, knowing full well that I would be gone for more than a year. It was unheard of for someone to be willing to do that, to sacrifice, some of their retirement years and that finally shedding the municipal demands. So I'd like to just recognize on behalf of the staff and our elected officials, David Nixon for his service to the community, and we have just a small gesture here from the town of Hubbardston with the seal, signed by our folks to present to David. So. So thank you all. David's forgotten more about municipal service than I'll ever know, and we talked weekly, and he's just been great, just for me personally and for the town. So I'd also like to recognize one more person tonight and embarrass someone else. So our chair of the select board right now, Dan Gallant, is finally stepping down after 9 years of service to this community. If you were in my seat and you're able to see how many hours, how much investment Dan put into the town, what he's done to get the town center project going, which was put out to bid today and will be starting next summer. Everything he's done on behalf of the town, working with the boards, trying to build relationships, answering resident questions, and making sure that Hubbardston is a community that's moving forward and recognized as such. I thought it was important to recognize his last meeting. He tried to do it at the select board meeting last time, and we didn't let him, so. Since he was so instrumental with many others on the town center project, we have laser engraved the Hubbardston Town Center and recognized his service, and of course everyone signed the back form. So we'd like to thank Dan for his service and welcome him. Thank you, and just Lori designed that because she's the only one with the talent to do so.
Part. At this point, the chair is going to recognize the chairman of the select board, Daniel Galante, to deliver the state of the town report. Mr. Galante.
Thank you. All right, hi everybody. So, a few of the things I had planned to do, Ryan just did, which was first and foremost thanking him for his service. I'm not going to go through all of that again because I don't want to cry. And then also thanking David Nixon as well for stepping up and acting as the town administrator. Would also like to recognize Police Chief Dennis Perrin, our longtime police chief who's leaving his position this summer after 16 plus years at the helm of the Hubbardston Police Department. Chief Perrin inherited a department that was rife with inefficiencies, and he modernized it to run as a model for small town departments in the area and always conducted himself as a professional. As Chief has always said, it was his dream to run a department, and we thank him for all his work and service and wish him well in the future. And Ryan just alluded to this now too, but I do need to say it. And so, of course, I also have to recognize Bill Shea and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Committee, as well as the Memorial Day Committee, for putting together one of the most memorable days in the long history of our town. I'm sure everyone here has had a chance to take a look at the town common and has felt the powerful emotions that both the new memorial and the day as a whole have engendered in this community. We can't thank you all enough for so much effort and for putting forth such a success. So thank you. Two more items. So, again, Ryan alluded to this, but over the last couple of years, Mass DOT, as you guys know, has reconstructed Route 68 South from Elm Street to the Rutland Town line and the northern portion of Route 68 from the rec field to the Gardner City line. We, the town, paid for the engineering, and they paid for the rest, about $6.5 million. In parallel to these two projects, the Town Center Committee, which was organized 7 years ago now, has worked with the town engineers on the fundings, the plans, the easements, and all the rest to bring this generational project from an idea to now, as of last week, an approved Mass DOT construction project out for bid. Most of the work will be slated for the 2023 construction season, as Ryan said, and again, the town paid for the engineering, and once again, the Mass DOT will pay for another $5 to $6 million to complete the full reconstruction of Hubbardston's Route 68 corridor. And then finally, one more thing, the budget. As usual, the TAs, the Finance Committee, and Select Board have gone through numerous iterations over the last several months with significant variables like unknown and changing school assessments that determine so much what we can and cannot accomplish as we always try to keep moving forward. We believe the balanced budget as presented tonight is lean, fair, and what we can afford, with a hopeful eye, always, towards savings, while still prioritizing some important projects and services. So thanks once again, and enjoy the meeting.
And so we have an additional guest this evening to be recognized. We spoke before the start of the meeting. Does not plan on having a speaking role, but the chair certainly wanted to be sure to introduce him to Hubbardston, the superintendent designate of Monty Tech, Tom Brown. Mr. Brown. The consent agenda is a mechanism that we have used successfully here in Hubbardston the last several years. It consists of what is generally considered to be non-controversial items. The town will take up Articles 1 through 5 under a consent agenda. It requires a unanimous consent of town meeting, and if passed, then we will vote on Articles 1 through 5 as a block under a single vote. If someone objects to any single article being included in the consent calendar, we will remove that article from the consent calendar and vote the remaining articles under the consent calendar. Everyone clear as far as what we're going to be doing? So the first thing the chair is going to be asking is for your unanimous consent, and then if that is granted, the next thing the chair will recognize Mr. Galante to move the appropriate motion. So at this point in time, as far as the consent calendar, is there unanimous consent that town meeting proceed to the consent calendar? That's okay? All right, we'll do it. If you are in favor, please raise your card. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. If you are opposed, please raise your card. And thank you, unanimous consent has been granted. At this point, the chair recognizes Mr. Galante. Mr. Galante moves that the town take up Articles 1 through 5 under a consent calendar. And at this point in time, does the chair hear a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Williams. Is there, and this is recommended by the Select Board and also the Finance Committee, is there any discussion? Anyone wish to speak to this motion? The chair hears none. All in favor of the first motion, the consent calendar motion, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please raise your card, and the motion passes unanimously. The second motion, Mr. Williams, is going to move that the town approve Articles 1 through 5 as printed in the warrant, and further authorize the department heads to address town meeting for information purposes. Is there a second to the motion? Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion to the motion? The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. Those opposed, please raise your card. And the motion passes. Thank you. We now will go to Article 6, and the motion by Mr. Perigo moves that the town authorize the treasurer with the approval of the Select Board to borrow money in anticipation of the revenue for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2022, in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 4, and issue a note or notes payable within a period of less than 1 year in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 17. It's a motion by Mr. Perigo. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Seconded by Mrs. Monroe. Is there any, and this is recommended by the Select Board and also the Finance Committee, is there any discussion to the motion? The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 7, Ms. Young moves that the town fix the maximum amount that may be spent during fiscal year 2023 beginning on July 1, 2022 for the revolving funds established pursuant to Chapter 4 of the Hubbardston General Bylaws for certain departments, boards, committees, agencies, or officers, and amend Chapter 4, Section 6E by establishing revolving funds for plumbing, gas, and electrical inspections as per Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, and deleting revolving funds for hazmat fund, hazardous building demolition fund, public records, and tax title collection fund, and transferring to the general fund any available amounts in the designated revolving funds as delineated in Article 7 of the warrant of the annual town meeting held on June 7, 2022, and incorporated by reference herein. Motion by Ms. Young. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Williams. Is there any discussion to the motion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your cards. And the article passes. Thank you. Article 8, Ms. Monroe moves that the town raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $4,287,917 to meet the salaries and compensation of town employees and town officers as provided by Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108, expenses and outlays of the town departments and other sundry and miscellaneous but regular expenditures necessary for the operation of the town for fiscal year 2023, July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. As printed in the attached Appendix A, excluding the amounts shown for the Quabbin Regional School District, the Quabbin Regional School District roof repair debt, and the Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School District. And further, to accept and expend federal and state funds to offset certain salaries or expenses and outlay. Move that the town raise and appropriate from taxation the amount of $4,287,917 to meet the salaries and compensation. Is this included twice? It looks like it is completely repetitive. Outlay? Okay. So I'm sorry, that will end with the word outlay. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half lines from that will be stricken. Is that correct, Town Council? It is. And you think we don't read these? Is there a second? Seconded? Thank you. Okay. Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Those opposed, thank you. Those opposed, please raise your card. And the article passes unanimously. At this point in time, Mr. Administrator, you have a report? Okay. So, moving ahead tonight? Okay. So we're moving ahead to Article 9. Mr. Galante moves that the town raise and appropriate $497,609 for the Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School District assessment for fiscal year 2023. Mr. Galante so moves. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Williams. This is recommended by the Select Board and also the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion on that motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, Article 9, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your cards. Article passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 10. Mr. Williams moves that the town raise and appropriate $5,241,649 to pay the town of Hubbardston's share of the Quabbin Regional School District budget for fiscal year 2023. Motion by Mr. Williams. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Mrs. Monroe. Thank you. Under discussion.
My name is Mark Wigler with 5 Cruz Road in Hubbardston. Mr. Moderator,
Sure.
I move to amend the motion by inserting the figure of $5,457,284.03 to pay the town of Hubbardston's share of the Quabbin Regional School District budget for FY 2023. This would
Mr. Wheeler, excuse me, could you just go over that amount again, please?
$5,457,284.03.
Thank you. Please proceed.
This was a number that was voted at the most recent Quabbin Regional School District meeting on May 26th of this year. It was after this was actually printed. This was the 4th iteration of the Quabbin Regional School District budget. It represents an increase of 2.4%. The original number for the Quabbin budget, which we started off with, was a 5.9% increase, and it is now 2.4% increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second to Mr. Wheeler's motion? And there is a second. Thank you, ma'am. Did you want to speak to it? Okay. Now, this is going to be to the amendment. Do you want to speak to the amendment, or do you want to speak to the original? Okay, all right. Is there any discussion as far as the amendment by Mr. Wheeler? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower your cards. All those opposed to the amendment, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower your cards. 23 in the affirmative, 30 in the negative, and the amendment fails. Back to the original motion by Mr. Williams. Is there any discussion? At this point, the chair will recognize the Finance Committee chair.
Good evening. I'm Susan Rain, Finance Committee Chair. Once again this year, the Finance Committee does not recommend the Quabbin Regional School District's budget request. Instead, we recommend that you vote for the amount allocated by the town for our share of the district budget. This is because the district's request is, once again, more than the town can sustainably bear. It's math. Yes, the district has reduced its budget request from March, but the administration knows that it is still too rich for the member towns to swallow. In her recent interview with the Barrie Gazette, Superintendent Muir stated that she expected 4 of the 5 member towns to vote down this budget. A failing math grade, if ever there was one. But here we all are anyway. And once that happens, the shakedown begins again, causing the towns to incur more expense to hold special town meetings that you have to attend to vote on yet another budget that could have been offered up in the first instance. It's math with an attitude. We owe it to you to explain that it doesn't have to be this way. Even though the Commonwealth is always late to class with its revenue numbers, the district could collaborate with Hubbardston and the other member towns to come up with a budget that is acceptable to everyone before town meeting starts. But collaboration seems not to be part of the math curriculum at Quabbin. Instead, we have drama. We all value and support the education of our kids. We also have responsibilities to ourselves for all the line items in our budget. We spend nearly 60 cents of every dollar on education, and of every dollar of new revenue that is coming into this town, we are giving the district 70 cents in an effort of compromise. This math, too, is unsustainable if we want any meaningful improvements in non-education related services. Your vote for Article 10 will tell the district once again to stop running with scissors and start working and playing well with Hubbardston and the other member towns and doing math. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rain. At this point, Dr. Murph? No? All set? Thank you. Any further discussion of the motion? Any further discussion of the motion? The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. 4 opposed. Thank you. And the article passes. Article 11, Mr. Borrego moves that the town raise and appropriate $28,512 to pay its share of the Quabbin Regional School debt for fiscal year 2023. Mr. Borrego so moves. Is there a second? Thank you. Okay. Any discussion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 12, Ms. Young moves that the town transfer from the PEG Access and Cable Related Fund $20,000 for the salaries, benefits, committee stipends, and other operating expenses of the Hubbardston Cable Advisory Committee for fiscal year 2023. Motion by Ms. Young. Is there a second? Seconded. So that by Mrs. Monroe. Is there any discussion on the motion? And the chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 13, Ms. Monroe moves that the town transfer 400, so this is a correction from what you have before you. This is the corrected amount, $404,500 from free cash to pay for the fiscal year 2023 capital expenses, including all costs incidental and related thereto as delineated in Article, and here is a correction, Article 13 of the warrant of the annual town meeting held on June 7th, 2022, and as amended and incorporated by reference herein. Okay, and I believe that has been, Ms. Monroe, I believe that was seconded, but just in case, the chair's going to ask for a second, Mr. Williams, just in case. Ms. Young had seconded, hadn't she? No, I don't think so. Mr. Williams. Second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion? Sorry. Go ahead.
It's on. All right, good evening. Just to explain the amendment, so number 5 and number 6 is printed in the warrant. To replace basement floors at the library, $20,000, and number 6, to repair the library foundation. These have been eliminated from the capital plan, not due to support from the Finance Committee or the Select Board or the Library Board of Trustees, but in conversations, these appropriations are not needed for this year, and they will be added back into the capital plan in future years where appropriate. So this is not a rejection of those requests, but simply when they're needed.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Galante moves that the town transfer $5,000 from free cash to fund title research for properties where ownership is unknown and taxes may be due. Is there a second? seconded by Ms. Young. Is there any discussion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. There is one opposed. Thank you. Okay, and the article passes. Article 15. Article 15. Mr. Williams moves that the town transfer $49,650 from free cash to pay for the environmental study and implement the remediation of town-owned property, Assessor's Map 03, Lot 57, off Pitcherville Road. Motion by Mr. Williams. Is there a second? Thank you. Ms. Young seconds. Is there any discussion to the motion? And the chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 16, Mr. Prego moves that the town transfer $25,000 from free cash to the general stabilization account and further transfer $25,000 from free cash to the capital stabilization account. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Williams. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 17, Ms. Young moves that the town appropriate or reserve from the Community Preservation Annual Revenue the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses for historic resources, community housing and open space, for community preservation projects and other expenses in fiscal year 2023, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation as delineated in Article 18 of the warrant of the annual town meeting and incorporated herein. Motion by Ms. Young. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Monroe. Thank you. Is there any, and this is recommended by the Select Board, is there any discussion to the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. Article passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 18. Ms. Monroe moves that the town vote to appropriate and transfer $32,520 from accrued Community Preservation Act undesignated reserve to fund the fiscal year 2023 annual debt service obligation for the Rainbows End Playground Improvement Project as previously approved under Article 18 of the June 2020 annual town meeting. Motion by Ms. Monroe. Is there a second? Ms. Young seconds. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 19, Mr. Galante moves that the town transfer $20,972 from accrued Community Preservation Act Historic Reserve to fund the fiscal year 2023 annual debt service obligation for the roof replacement of the Hubbardston Public Library as previously approved under Article 14 of the June 2018 annual town meeting. Motion by Mr. Galante. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Williams. Is there any discussion? The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. Thank you, and the article passes unanimously. Article 20, Mr. Williams moves that the town appropriate the sum of $25,000 from accrued Community Preservation Act Community Housing Reserve to fund the purchase of building material for the Habitat for Humanity North Central Massachusetts home on Ragged Hill Road in Hubbardston. Motion by Mr. Williams. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Young. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Please.
Hello, I'm Alice Livedall, 96 Mount Jefferson Road, Chair of the Planning Board, which is also the Affordable Housing Committee in town. This article is requesting $25,000 from the accrued CPA Community Housing Reserve Funds for use for the build of the house on Ragged Hill Road by Habitat for Humanity, North Central Mass, in partnership with the town and Monty Tech and many other volunteers. The Planning Board, which is the Affordable Housing Committee, seeks your support for the article, and Carolyn Reed is the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity Central Mass, is here today to speak to the article or answer any questions you have. As background, a portion of Community Preservation Act funds are set aside every year by the town specifically for the creation of affordable housing. These funds are in the Community Housing Reserve account and cannot be spent for anything else. Hubbardston has had few affordable housing initiatives, so the $25,000 is available with money remaining and more being added, which we just voted $12,000 more for the same account next year. CPA grants are used to fund most, if not all, of Habitat houses built in Massachusetts. Other sources include the town-donated land, private funds raised by the local committee and by Habitat, and state and federal housing grants, and most importantly, labor donated from the vocational technical high schools. So this house on Ragged Hill Road is the first subsidized housing unit, except for Hubbardston House and some group homes ever built in Hubbardston. A buyer's been selected. She's put in many hours of sweat equity. The house was initially estimated to cost $171,500, but material increases caused by COVID-19 added over $13,000 to this cost, $11,000 for lumber alone. I do want to say the local committees worked extremely hard and tirelessly to raise the local share, which we set at $35,000 prior to COVID, and they actually succeeded in raising $30,000 through donations from 87 individuals, 18 corporations, multiple fundraisers in a pretty short time. Habitat for Humanity raises money as well for these houses, individually each house, and both groups faced headwinds raising funds in this COVID-19 era because you couldn't have events in person, and there were a lot of insecurity around, just personal finances. So as a result, despite the efforts of the local committee and Habitat, there does remain a gap to finish completion of the house, and this $25,000 won't close it completely, but it'll go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Donnell. Are there any questions of Ms. Reed at this time? The chair should mention that Ms. Livedall had contacted the chair and had requested that Ms. Reed be granted the opportunity to speak at town meeting because she is not a resident of Hubbardston, and that was granted. Again, are there any questions to be asked of Ms. Reed? Hearing none. Any further discussion as far as the article itself? And this is Article 20. Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 21, Mr. Prego moves that the town amend Article 24, Regulation of Dogs, Section 8B, as delineated in Article 21 of the annual town meeting warrant held on June 7th, 2022, and incorporated by reference herein. Motion by Mr. Prego. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Young. Is there any discussion? The chair hears none. All in favor of Article 21, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And there's one opposed. Thank you. And the article passes. Article 22. Article 22, and for this one, Ms. Lifdahl, are you going to be reporting on this article? You are, okay, thank you. So the planning board will be required to report on this article as per Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5, and the planning board public hearing was held on February 24th of 2022. Is that correct? Correct. Thank you. Ms. Young moves that the town amend the zoning bylaws as delineated in Article 23 of the annual town meeting held on June 7th, 2022, and incorporated by reference herein. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Monroe and also by Mr. Williams. Okay, and the chair understands that there will be an amendment to this at the appropriate time. I see the big guns have been called out. Ms. Lifdahl, if you could please begin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You know, it's always a problem to say too much, too little information, but I'm going to go fairly rapidly and see if we can get through this. So in proposing this article, the planning board is seeking to simplify, update, and create conditions for adding an accessory dwelling unit to a single-family house. Presently, the zoning bylaws allow for 3 different types of accessory dwelling units, and each have different rules that apply. They are, presently, a housekeeping unit for live-in employees, an in-law apartment limited to relatives, and an accessory apartment which has to be located entirely within the walls of an existing house, and the house has to be at least 5 years old. So that's what we have now. What we began with consolidating these 3 types into just one accessory dwelling unit, which we defined as a group of rooms located within an attached to an owner-occupied single-family residence or above a garage of a single-family residence, consisting of a kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom, up to 2 bedrooms, which are to be used as a separate apartment for a limited number of occupants, and occupants may include relatives, dependents, and guests of the owners, caregivers, nannies, and others providing services to the owner, or tenants. The important change here is that the occupant of the accessory dwelling unit does not have to be a relative or an employee or a caregiver of the homeowner, but can be a tenant, short or long term. We also addressed a number of important issues not covered at all by the existing zoning bylaws, such as size limit of the unit, number of occupants, appearance, access, and parking. If you'll bear with me, I'll run those down very quickly, what they would be. So the proposed bylaw allows accessory dwelling units in all zoning districts, allows a unit only as part of an owner-occupied single-family residence, allows only 1 unit per single-family residence, allows a unit to be added by right to a single-family residence if the lot, house, and unit all conform to dimensional regulations in our zoning, and allows a unit to be added to a house on a non-conforming lot or over a detached garage only by special permit. Other restrictions apply, including the following. The living area of the accessory dwelling unit is limited to 50% of the single-family residence or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less. The owner of the single-family residence must reside in either the single-family residence or the accessory unit for at least 5 months per year. The unit cannot be occupied by more than 4 people. The unit may have no more than 2 bedrooms. The units must be attached to a single-family residence through a common wall. A breezeway is insufficient to connect the two. The unit must be constructed in such a way that the entire structure maintains the appearance of a single-family residence. Exterior stairways to second floors must be located on the side or back of the structure. The single-family house and accessory dwelling unit must be served by the same driveway, and 2 additional off-street parking spaces must be provided for the dwelling unit and cannot be located in the front yard setback or on the driveway in such a way as to block emergency vehicles. And finally, the septic system has to be correctly sized and approved to serve both units. So, having said that, that's my presentation.
Thank you.
What questions?
Ms. Lipdahl, thank you very much. Is there any discussion? We have Mr. Chairman, fair not. We have the maker of an amendment with his bouncer in tow. So,
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
thank you, Mr. Monroe.
Christopher Monroe from Grimes Road, also on the planning board. And I would like to speak to this and make a friendly amendment. Excuse me, Alex. Yeah, if you flip that. Sorry, I only have so many hands. I would like to speak to the article and to make a friendly amendment to clarify the intent of the planning board.
Please proceed.
You would like me to take a minute? To speak to the article, this is the product of really a challenging situation that we've been given. It's very clear that the state wants us to increase the availability of affordable housing, and it's also something that we should do because it's something that's right for the community. The challenge we have is the community's also made it pretty clear that they want us to find ways to do that without encouraging a ton of building. And this is the compromise that allows that to happen, because it allows us to generate essentially affordable housing units out of thin air. And many of these units, well, some of these already exist, and what we're doing is we're just creating a legal pathway, and we're also creating a pathway where we don't have the enforcement issues that are under the current provision. Because how are we to know if somebody's related? What's the building commissioner supposed to do? Substantive dating relationships are typically considered a relation. How are we supposed to investigate that? So basing zoning on something that's so ambiguous, it doesn't make sense to us as a town. So I really hope everybody supports this. As to the friendly amendment, I would like to make a friendly amendment, a motion for a friendly amendment to Article 22, where in the proposed Section 237, line 5, after it says provides to owners, there should be a semicolon immediately preceding or tenants.
Thank you. So everyone understands the amendment being proposed by Mr. Monroe, that between the word owners and word or, that there should be a semicolon. At this point, the chair is going to rule that there is no need for a second and or discussion so long as town meeting gives its unanimous consent. So the chair will ask your unanimous consent to simply insert the semicolon where indicated. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. It is incorporated therein. Thank you very much. Okay, as far as Article 22, is there any further discussion to Article 22? The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards.
Has to be 2/3.
Two-thirds vote, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes. Thank you. Article 23, the Planning Board required to report on this article is per Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5. The Planning Board had a public meeting that was held on March 3rd of 2022. Ms. Lipdahl, is that correct? Correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Monroe is going to move that the town amend the zoning bylaws as delineated in Article 24 of the warrant of the annual town meeting held on June 7th, 2022, and incorporated by reference herein. I have Article 24. Thank you. Confused as you are, just informed that that is Article 23, not Article 24. So Ms. Monroe moves that the town amend the zoning bylaws as delineated in Article 23 of the warrant of the annual town meeting held on June 7, 2022, and incorporated by reference herein. Is there a second? Thank you. Ms. Young seconds. Is there any discussion? At this point, the chair will recognize Mr. Steiger. Thank you. Mr. Steiger, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Francois Steiger, 65 Healdville Road here in Hubbardston. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to present this bylaw and the changes that the planning board has arduously worked on. I'll briefly explain some of the history behind this here, and that is, as on March 26 of 2021, Governor Charlie Baker, he signed a comprehensive climate change bill known as Senate Bill 9, an act to create the next generation roadmap of mass climate policy. And within it, it's also designed to eliminate carbon emissions in Massachusetts by 2050 by promoting renewable energy and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Additionally, the Massachusetts Energy Storage Institute set a goal to have 1,000 megawatt hour of energy storage available by the end of year 2025. Grid battery energy storage systems are rechargeable batteries that store energy from the grid and when there is surplus power available, and return it when it is in need, when there is a need for it. These systems can be activated rapidly and provide critical services such as power balancing, peak sharing, frequency regulation, and outage recovery, as well as complement intermittent renewable energy, and they do complement, I should say, very well intermittent renewable energy sources, some of which are very much present in the town of Hubbardston. And as a matter of fact, we already have a battery energy storage system located in one of our solar fields. Hubbardston's battery energy storage systems, the acronym for it is BESS, the bylaw, puts in our books the proper controls and incentives for the placement of a grid-scale battery energy storage system. And so these are known as Tier 2 systems, which are typically only utilized for the interfaces with the grid. These are not intended to be in personal properties or homes. They cannot exceed 10 megawatt, according to how we have written this bylaw. And in addition to this here, they can only be located within the existing large-scale photovoltaic installations, which has not ever been incorporated into our bylaws, as well as placement in a commercial district that has utility-compatible interconnections, which therefore means it has to be three-phase power must be available on the street. This then is therefore limits it to the present, to certain locations within Route 68, primarily, well, not primarily, but exclusively between High Street and the Gardner Cutoff Road. I'd like to make mention of the fact that this particular bylaw was amply discussed during various different meetings that we had, and as you have pointed out, we did have a meeting where the planning board had a public hearing in which we did receive some feedback. Again, there are special permit requirements, which typically, again, limit this here to be included only in commercial zones. Lot size and frontages are also incorporated in here. Utility access has to be very strictly followed. And again, I just want to reemphasize that the maximum capacity that has been provisioned in this particular bylaw is not to exceed at this present time 10 megawatt hours. There's an interesting tidbit, and that is that the Solar Energy Industries Association calculates that on average about 1 megawatt of a solar power, for example, can generate enough electricity to meet the needs of roughly about 164 homes. Therefore, translating that our 10 megawatts would store enough power for about 1,640 homes. The town of Hubbardston currently has, I believe, roughly about 1,550 homes. So just to understand what the concept and the scale of this is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Steiger. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion as far as the article? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Before this is going to be adjourned, one quick announcement. Can you please leave your chairs where they are? They are going to be used tomorrow morning, okay? So please just leave the chairs where they are. I was, about 2 months ago, given a gavel that belonged to a person who I knew who served in Congress. It is not made out of gold. I have had it checked, and it is brass, but nonetheless, in the spirit of Willy Wonka, it seems to be my good luck charm this evening in light of the lack of discussion. Mr. Chairman, anything else on your end, sir?
Just that we'd like to save the cards.
We're also saving the cards, okay? Mr. Administrator, all set? Okay. At this point, at 8:01, the chair is going to declare this town meeting adjourned. Thank you.